Your teen requested a ride, but this time not from you. It's through their Uber teen account. You drive your teenager around, a lot, to their friend Jacob's house, their other friend Jake's house, to James's, to Jaden's, to Jalen's, to...
Mom, this is Jake's house, not Jacob's.
Now with an Uber teen account, your teen can request a ride under your supervision. They'll ride with a highly rated driver, and with live trip tracking, you'll follow along the whole ride to their friends' houses that all sound the same. Add your teen to your Uber account today. See app for details.
Bye, Mom.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
Cool shoes. My brother would love those.
Ooh, I don't share my sources.
Well, I just found them using Circle to search with Google on my new Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 6.
What?
And I texted them to my brother on the other side of this massive screen.
Where did you get that phone?
Lucky for you, I don't gatekeep my sources. Tell them.
Get your own Galaxy Z Fold 6 now at Samsung.com. Requires internet connection. Results may vary by uniqueness, clarity, and framing of circled image and related factors.
The Volvo XC60 plug-in hybrid is about performance, not just on the road, but in life, where the only speed that matters is how fast you can slow down. Performance where it matters the most. Visit volvocars.com/US.
Welcome back to Rams Up, your favorite LA Rams podcast. We are part of the Fans First Sports Network. You can follow us on our YouTube channel as well, at LA Rams Up. I'm your host, Mark. I'll be joined occasionally by my football gurus, Paul and Ian. Let's get to it. Hey, welcome back, everybody. Rams Up Roundtable number 51. Are you guys pumped for 49ers week? We all got to be really excited. We're catching them at the perfect time. They're going to be down a couple of players. Well, we're going to talk about that and a bunch of other stuff. Yes, I'm being somewhat sarcastic there. They're probably very happy to be catching us at this time as well. What's going on, Ian?
Family, Mark, Paul. We just got to move on and I guess follow the rules of all football coaches from every era, right? 24 hours, you digest what happened, learn from it, and then you got to move on. You can't let a bad loss continue to snowball into future possible bad losses, right? So I think we have to do the same as a fan base because Sunday was bad. It was really bad, wasn't it? Oof.
You feel the same, Paul?
We got 15 games to go. There's a lot of football left to be played.
Yeah, what makes it maybe more it makes the Detroit loss more painful is what it does. Because if we had come out of that with a win, and assuming the butterfly effect has a play here, though, but if we had the same result in Arizona, we'd be 1-1, and we could afford to lose to the 49ers, come back with a win against the Bears. And the season's kind of going the way we might expect it, this early in the season. What do you got here, Ian? The Rams have allowed 67 points, their third most through 2 games of a season in franchise history. Yeah, that's pretty sad.
I mean, brutal. I mean, that just sums up everything that we kind of saw this last Sunday, isn't it? Well, one of the things, right? Jeez Louise. I mean,
yeah, and I wouldn't doubt that 2000. In 2000, when they gave up 70, they might have won both those games. So I don't remember, but that was in between the 2 Super Bowls, right?
Yeah.
For the greater show.
And then the reality versus perception, right? So every article, every episode that you see on YouTube is about all the Rams injuries. Was the Rams defense overcome by injuries? So on top of the injuries, you would have this defensive collapse, right? Which is not attributed to injuries, just really, really poor play and really poor schematic sort of execution by the Rams defense.
Yeah.
Even McVay called it out. He said, the secondary run fits, basically saying it out loud that people weren't lining up correctly at the NFL level. When you're not lining up correctly, that's a big issue.
Yeah. Brutal. Oh.
Yeah, I have to say, you were talking about earlier before we started recording, Ian, about players that we could talk positively about. And one name I didn't mention is Jared Verse. I think he's still playing very well. My son shared a stat with me that he tied Chris Long and Aaron Donald, I think it was, with 3 tackles for a loss in their rookie season or some strange stat like that. So he's still playing well, and he, that those edge rushers, we just missed some sack opportunities big time. And that hurt.
Yeah, I mean, look at it. If there's one player on defense, you can be like, okay, who wasn't abysmal? I mean, it would definitely be Jared Verse, right, everybody? I just personally think if Kyler Murray wasn't this athletic freak of nature that obviously it takes another freak of nature to catch him, Aaron Donald, we sure missed him on this past Sunday. We should have had like 4 or 5 sacks, right, Paul? I know you watched some of the film as well. And man, oh man, that was so frustrating to see because Jared had him probably like 4 different times, twice on one play, and then another 3 on another 3 different plays, and it just could not get him. So I think that is the one player on defense where you can be like, okay, shout out to Jared Verse. He's pretty legit, thankfully. And
yeah, I did find the stat.
Oh, man.
I did find the stat here. He's the 4th Ram rookie to record 3 tackles for a loss in a game, joining Chris Long, Michael Brockers, and Aaron Donald.
It's beast. I mean,
yeah,
what a monster by every account. I mean, really, it's just a shame that this game was just such a fat L. I mean, there's just really no other way to go about it. Defense as a whole, it's just golly, man. And I just think we just have to see such a drastic improvement, or things are just going to be just awful going forward, don't you think? I mean,
there's always the aspect that I try to, as you guys know, I try to be optimistic, because sometimes I'm optimistic, bordering on silly, but sometimes teams respond to these adverse situations in a good way. There's still some good players on this team. Our offensive line, we'll talk about that a little bit later when we get to the 49er game. Our offensive line could actually be, not horrible, going into the 49er game. Well, the 49ers are banged up as well, so there's hope there. And I think, like we already mentioned, we still have Matthew Stafford. We still have Kyron Williams and Blake Corums showing some promise. And our defense, our defense just had a really bad day at the office. But based on what we saw in Detroit, should we give up on them? I don't know.
I don't think so. I mean, it's going to be a tough road, obviously. I mean, geez Louise. It's just going to be, just a grind to just figure it out. But right, gentlemen, I mean, all you can do is, okay, who were the core members who were just terrible every play? And I have just to be honest, after watching film, Bobby Brown, there has to be serious consideration to get him off the nose tackle. I know the Lions game was a good overall defensive effort, but I thought he wasn't good at all in that game. And in this game was even worse, I felt, from him. Right, Paul? Right, Mark? It was just him standing up. I didn't really see any good hand fighting or a good fight to try to lay out and cause a pile or fight to at least try to make a tackle. He just was like, all right, well, I didn't clog the hole. I got beat. That's what it looked like to me. I'm not trying to say, oh, he's a bad character guy. I know that's things could always get skewed into that, right? But that's not what I'm saying. He just has played bad the last couple weeks on defense. And then we can't have Warren McClendon out there at left tackle. He was abysmal as well. And again, that's the whole defense. Majority of the offensive line weren't good, but those two are guys we cannot have out there and have them be relied upon in this future game against the 49ers and even beyond until they make vast improvements as players. We just can't have those two guys out there. It's unfortunate that that's the reality. Again, not trying to hate, but that's just where we're at. Those two were abysmal. There's just no way around it, right, Paul?
And Paul, in that light, one of the things that stood out to me on the inactives list was Tyler Davis. Given how Bobby Brown has been playing, and then Tyler Davis is inactive. Now, Laurel Murchison, we'll talk about this later in our potential transactions. Laurel Murchison could come back. I don't think that's his role, though. Corey Durden has been inactive, or Corey Durden's on the practice squad. They could pull him up. I don't know what their options are. I thought it might be Tyler Davis, and then he's inactive against the Cardinals.
Shame.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch the film closely, I mean, Bobby Brown doesn't even disengage from the blocks. It's like literally like he's gorilla glued to the offensive lineman. So, that's a very important position in the way the Rams play their early down run defense. So, and it really does put the Rams at a major disadvantage because if you take a look at the way their philosophy for run defense really is that, there are not that many teams out there that can really exploit us from a run standpoint, right? We just, have to be like on the sort of like the top half of run defense. But that strategy only works when your offense is putting up points that forces the other team to have to throw the ball more frequently. But if you're not putting up points and, it doesn't take a genius to figure it out after the Detroit game when the whole thing was shown to the entire world that Arizona came right out, and that's exactly what they did. Connor touched the ball, I think it was like 4 times in the first 8 plays, and the rest was just, bombs downfield to Marvin Harrison. So it was a complete collapse at every level for the Rams. The Rams have 20 missed tackles in 2 games. 20 missed. That's the official stat line. 20 missed. That's 10 a game. At least they're consistent.
Now, did Gallimore get enough snaps to form an opinion on him, or did anyone look?
His reputation is as a run defender.
Yeah,
he's not the biggest player, but that is his reputation. I just think overall, when you watch it, from what I saw, and is that there is something not right in the way they are basically just lining up. There is always one gap that is uncovered. So Ram Nation. So what happens is sometimes when there's motion and players have to move, the idea is that the offense is creating a gap that wasn't there, pre-snap, right?
Yeah.
So let's say I motion a tight end to the right. Now you have an extra gap on that side. And, you watch as, players get bumped over. And in pass coverage, it looks a little bit easier, right, to match up. But you have to understand also, somebody has to line up and cover that gap. But the bulk of it is that the players are not disengaging from blocks up front. They're getting tied up. And at one point, just to show you just how discombobulated everybody is, there was one pass rush where they were running a stunt. Kobe Turner, Braden Fisk, and Jared Verse were all on the same side. So there was no one, not on purpose. There was so much confusion and so poorly executed. They were all within 3 feet of one another.
Yeah.
At one point, Bobby Brown tackled Troy Reeder as a running back was coming through.
Yeah, I saw that.
Now, is that a scenario where I'll rely on you, my football gurus, to answer this one? Dare I suggest is that a scenario where Ernest Jones would come up and tap one of them on the hip and say, get your ass over there to the left?
Probably.
Well, that's what we had talked about, right? What's the first thing we said? Whoever gets the green dot's got to get everybody lined up correctly. I really like what I heard from Troy Reeder, though, when they did the interview, right? And Mark, I know you guys saw it, that the interview with Troy Reeder in terms of what he was saying. So here's the problem, is that you can't go – this is the NFL. You can't show up in week 1 not ready to play. So they weren't ready to play in Detroit. They definitely were not ready to play in the desert. So that brings up a lot of a lot of questions. It's easy to point at the injuries, but in all honesty, the Rams have enough to win. You have enough there to win. They almost won in Detroit. They gave the ball back to the offense in Detroit, but otherwise they had enough to win in Detroit. And both the teams that they lost to, so Arizona was coming off a loss to Buffalo, and then Detroit lost after playing the Rams. So it's not like, they were facing these juggernauts with all respect to both teams. So the Rams have a lot of questions that, you can't really just throw everything on the injury pile here like a lot of people are doing. There are a lot of other questions that have to come up for the Rams to right the ship. On defense, in my opinion, the Rams have enough healthy bodies there that's something that they could lean on moving forward.
That's what I thought they were going to do.
Yeah.
Just real quickly, Ian, I was just going to say it's quite a dichotomy that they don't play their starters in the preseason.
Well,
the bonus is they stay healthy. The risk is maybe they start a little slow. And so what's happened is
that's true now. Truthfully, I mean, look at the entire NFL right now. Look at all the teams who have taken this, keep the players healthy approach, right, before any real games happen. And they all have, it's just been a lot of sloppy football. I think this has been the lowest amount of quarterback yardage thrown for in the first couple of weeks in like the last 10 plus years. I've read a stat somewhere in the last 3 or 4 days. And I was like, man, oh man, that's pretty wild. And no shock. I mean, just think teams are not practicing in real game settings. And we've gone away with it. We won the Super Bowl. We've been to the Super Bowl with that approach. We've been in the playoffs multiple times. So more times than not it has worked out. But I think now with defenses just catching on, which they do every couple years or so, they figure out what you like to do, which is why Sean has had to reinvent himself multiple times. And well, here we are again, going to have that conversation soon, I'm sure. But I think if a team is getting hurt as often as the Rams are, I think everything needs to be evaluative of how you get this team ready to rock for regular season action. And that does include playing them in meaningful preseason games. Now, you can make the argument, I'm sure, that's like, hey, if they were playing, maybe they would get hurt sooner. Who knows? But 2 out of 3 years for just things to just go down the drain within, not even a couple of months of the regular season. I mean, things all have to be evaluated, including all these resting of starters, right, gentlemen?
Yeah, and then they're talking about adding games. I don't know, man. It's the
they're
product.
They're going to do it, but
the product is just going to deteriorate.
And that's something, I think that's great for like all NFL fans to really think about it, and for the NFL experts to think about, NFLPA especially. Like, at what point do you extend the season past what's human capacity, right? In the time frame that the season is sort of laid out. Also with the roster size, right? It's beneficial to really take a look at the roster size. You need bodies. What's interesting? With the number of teams that do not play power football in terms of running the ball, and you have this number of injuries, this is telling me that, number one, defenses can be very aggressive. And that's really what you could be seeing also, that wear and tear. In the modern NFL, there are a lot of things you can draw up on the chalkboard. Here's the bottom line. If I'm a defensive coordinator, I love it if the 3 teams in my division love to throw the ball. You know why? I know their quarterback's not making it through the season. Go right ahead. Throw the ball 600 times, and Ray Lewis actually said that when they asked him. I forgot how it came up, but they were like, how do you feel about the quarterback throwing the ball 48 times? He said, if it happened against us, I take it personal. That offense thinks that they can throw the ball 40 times. That quarterback's not making it through the game. Now, that's Ray Lewis saying that. Okay? And Ray Lewis meant that when he said that. And he took it personally if an offense throws it against it. But so you can't even attribute this to like rugged football. Like, teams are just playing smash mouth and wearing out other teams. That's not even happening. People are throwing the ball 40, 50 times. And you're still getting this, just across the league. And the NFL has already tightened up on certain types of tackles. We don't even have to talk about the hip drop tackles that have not even been called yet. Look what happened to Cooper Kupp, Joe Mixon.
Yeah.
Joe Mixon. That was for everybody.
Well, that's because they're focusing on the tackles being too far from the line of scrimmage, so they're missing the hip drops.
So there's so many protective factors already in place, and you're still getting this high rate of injuries. So there's a lot to really look at when it comes to what's going on. And it's not the Rams obviously have it. I mean, their incidence rate is just off the charts. And go back to the Super Bowl, Ian, right? Think about what we rolled out in the Super Bowl. Yeah. In the game itself, we had to go to 2 tight ends because we had no wide receivers left.
Yeah,
right.
And here's Andrew Siciliano, our Rams media correspondent, who does a good job calling the games for us in preseason action, and I'm sure we'll have bigger roles going forward.
I love Andrew.
He found a great stat: most passing attempts through 2 weeks. You got Detroit Lions, Jared Goff. You have Cleveland Browns, Deshaun Watson. You have Denver Broncos, Bo Nix. You have our Matthew Stafford for the Rams, and you have Lamar Jackson. And they've all have thrown the most passes through 2 weeks. And their combined record as all teams, they're 2-8. What a shock, Paul and Mark. What a shock. Throwing the football consistency leads you to losing football. I mean, it's just
and I think in a couple,
man. Jesus.
Another couple points on the I guess we can just call it poor offense overall. The Steelers have scored 1 touchdown and they're 2-0. And the Charger Panther game, I shared this in my most recent podcast, I think they combined for about 200 yards passing, I think it was. Right. So it's it's good football, but I don't know if it's football made for the fans. But
sure, but I mean, are we in the business of losing with entertainment or winning to sell tickets and get people to be happy about their team? I
winning with entertainment.
Yeah. Well, yes.
No, I understand what you're saying.
The losing effort stuff, throwing the ball 50-something times is just
I'll
a lot of high flying, but
I'll take a 9-0 win over Tampa Bay in the NFC Championship game, or a Rams, or a Kurt Warner to Isaac Bruce and a 48-0 win. I'll take either one, I guess, but I understand what you're saying.
And to that point, though, gentlemen, I knew it exactly right when we got down 14-0, and I hit all you guys up. We were in a group chat together, and I was like, well, we're down 14. McVay is going to totally abandon the run. Like, he's not going to give enough carries of what it deserves, right? Kyron in the run game or whoever is back there. And we're just going to throw it, and we're not going to win. And that's exactly what happened. Matthew Stafford got killed. Warren McClendon was left on an island, who was just horrible. Pass blocking, run blocking the entire game. Pass blocking especially. And we just got smoked because that's what McVay does. He just panics, gets out of the rhythm of the run, if he had any at all, which is, very few and often it feels like these days. And then it's over, right? And it's unfortunate, but he's going to have to change somehow, some way. And shout out to everyone doing all these great stats. I mean, look at this. The most carries this season without a rush of 10+ yards. Kyron Williams is number 1 with 30. And a lot of that is, yes, I understand of the line being banged up and injured, but I think now it's time to open up the playbook. Enough with just doing an inside zone and a duo here and a little quick duo tossed here and all that. Like, we need to really diversify this run game, because I didn't see it in this game, but I saw Arizona have extremely diverse run plays, which we don't have in our playbook. And I get it. When you don't have a Kupp and you don't have a Nakua, you're asking your pseudo tight end, fullback, wide receivers to do a lot of the big boy blocking, which they are good at. But even then, it's time to diversify. Because think about what Arizona did to us. You saw inside zone. You saw outside zone. You saw duo. You saw counter. You saw counter with a lead blocker, fullback added to it. You saw power with the fullback, pseudo tight end. You saw a lot of pin and pull concepts similar to counters and traps and all that. It feels like we just have 4 or 5 run plays, and that's about it. And yes, we did it at a high clip this last season, but last season is last season. We're on to 2024, and here we are experiencing it, right, Rams Nation? And we have to see more diversity because Kyron just taking a duo up the middle or an inside zone here or a quick power or a duo toss inside, it's not going to get it done with this O-line being beat up and it's multiple starters now being injured. I mean, look at the stat. Look at it, everybody. Got to figure out ways to open up running lanes, and it can't be just the same 4 or 5 run plays up the middle anymore. Can't be that way, right?
They might have been limited to this past week, especially with Davis Allen hurt. So then maybe that discouraged them from running, 13 personnel. Is that what you call it? 2 tight ends?
12, but 13 would be 3 tight ends. Yeah, I mean, 13 would be great too. Get Hunter Long out there, might as well.
Yeah. I got 13 personnel in my head because I heard Jason Kelsey, I think, mentioned that last night. Mm-hmm. But the 12 personnel, they probably didn't want to go that route because they pulled up the tight end from the practice squad as an emergency tight end. So maybe they just figured they're going to stick with the 1 tight end all night. I would hope if Davis Allen is good to go against the 49ers, maybe we'll see some 12, but.
I think how quickly they've forgotten that Kyron Williams last year, he averaged 5 yards a carry. He had 12 touchdowns. He led the league, in rushing yards per game. So I mean, it's almost like the perception is just so far from reality that it's hard to really understand what it is. And so, as a fan, as an observer, it's really difficult to understand. Obviously, we're not in on those discussions at halftime, but it's really hard to understand. And in all fairness to the passing game, Ram Nation, we all know that, nobody's down in the passing game. The passing game's electric. And the way this league is set up, and, a coach 3 years ago, and even Tom Brady mentioned it this season as well, earlier in the season, is that the way that the NFL is constructed from a rule standpoint, it's almost forced teams. Like the way you can really, really sort of gouge, out a defense is through the air because of the way the rules are. And everything is really geared towards protecting the offense and giving them every advantage. So, that's why a lot of defensive, teams and a lot of defensive coaches complain about that. So we understand that, but I think what we're talking about is balance here. There's some semblance of balance. The Rams are always going to be a throw heavy, and that's fine. When you have a gunslinger like Stafford and you have King Cup and you got Puka Nails and DeMarcus Robinson is your WR3, heck yeah, throw the ball, right? But the bottom line is you got to have some balance. A great point was, they kept talking about Budda Baker in the game. He's a great player. There's nothing wrong with that. But are you telling me that he guessed right 15 times?
He didn't, by the way, watching the film.
Yeah. He basically, every time the Rams ran the ball, and I counted 6 consecutive times, he was flying down before Stafford was even at the mesh point. So there's something that he's picking up on. And he's played the Rams enough that he knows, right? And that's the point I think a lot of people are saying.
Paul, we just said five. We have 5 run plays. There's nothing else going on.
Hey, that was plenty for the 5 run plays was fine for the Madera Packers. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Oh, well,
but I think that's
really
an
inside
important
joke, folks.
And we've all been saying it here at Ram Nation, as you see, as we have this wishbone format here, right? So it's that all 3 of us have been saying it's like at some point, and it happens to every coach, and it happens to every system, when people start picking up on your tendencies, right? And a classic line was from the Super Bowl in 21, when they had that, when he was mic'd up. And the coach of the Bengals, Zach, he yells out, "All right, now he's gonna stop running the ball," right, in the middle of the game. And exactly that's what happened. That was their game plan. If they frustrate him enough, he's going to go away from the running game. And I think a lot of teams know that. Yeah. So I'm just baffled with all these coaches that they brought in that were supposed to assist with, the game management and ensuring that there was balance. Something has gone painfully awry here.
Yeah, and I think, Paul, to that point, though, I mean, we got to be honest. We have multiple backup third string linemen in, and I think that is a frustrating thing. But we talk about it all the time on here. How do you help out a backup lineman? Well, number one, you don't leave them on an island like we seem to do every year when we have backups in, right? They just, all right, you handle that on your own, and they end up failing every single time. And we just saw it.
Go block Aiden. Go block Aiden Hutchinson, please.
And I think we talk about it, and we'll continue to talk about Rams Nation until it is ingrained in you as well. Linemen like to attack, run block, instead of react, pass block. Facts. And you know what backs that up too? This fun little stat I'm going to pull up right here, thanks by PFF, is because the Rams are one of the worst pass blocking teams in the NFL through 2 weeks. If you can see the little grid here, you have everyone's more to the right, like, hey, this is the medium, everyone's doing okay. And then we're way over here, which means things are going terribly bad in pass protection. So I know McVay wants to throw the ball, but it is putting our linemen at such a disadvantage, especially with all the backups that are going to continue to be in for the foreseeable future. We can't live this way. Matthew Stafford is going to continue to get smacked around and sacked and hit, and we're not going to get any penalty flags for late hits on him because he doesn't get any for whatever dumb reason. And the season's really going to be in jeopardy if he has to miss any time at all. Hopefully not. But how do you do that? You run the ball and you help out those backup linemen to attack, not react and pass blocking, because this graph shows that they can't do it. Right, gentlemen? They can't do it right now. And you got to help them out. Got to diversify the run game. And we didn't do it this game, and this is why this game was an ass-kicking. Shoot.
Did we run any 12 personnel at all against the Cardinals? Do you know?
No.
None. Everything's 11 personnel. And we can get into how we got to beat the 49ers, if at all, but none this game, none the last game, and that's got to change. But
yeah.
Hey,
before we move on.
Slow starts are consistent. So the Rams were 3-6 last year, then improved to 7-1 in the tail two seasons, right? So I mean, that's the other part of it. You have to find what is your base, and that's what I've always said. Early on in the season, you got to establish an identity. Well, the Rams on defense are still looking for that identity. And in Ram Nation, what happens a lot when you have young players is they don't trust their eyes yet. So what they do is that's why you see them running upfield, and it almost looks like they're just sort of running around there without any real.
Cameron Hitchens had a bad moment exactly like that on that. Remember, everybody out there, if you haven't seen my film breakdown for the Cardinals game that is
all right,
out,
we need to talk about that. Yeah.
Go ahead and watch that film, and you will see exactly what we're going to discuss right now. It is that play where Kyler Murray got away from a sack from Braden Fisk, got away from Byron Young just enough where he just launched it. It looked like he was throwing it out of bounds, but then Marvin Harrison caught it on the sideline for a big gain when they were backed up in their end zone, and then they eventually scored on that. Where it was like, how did he get so wide open on that? That exact thing just happened, what you're describing, Paul, where a young player thinks that, oh, I can bail for my responsibility because I think Kyler's going to try to laser beam this to Harrison, and then Harrison, just being a savvy young receiver who's played a lot of football and is coached by his dad, a Hall of Famer, and give him a quick little 1-2 fake, and then you're going to be free. And that's exactly what happened. So that scenario you're bringing up happened exactly in this last game. And that stuff cannot happen going forward.
Traveling to see your fave sports team is cool, but traveling with Amex Platinum for the big game is even better.
Right this way.
With access to dedicated card member entrances at select events, you can skip the line. And with access to the Centurion Lounge,
He shoots a three.
You can catch the next game on the way home. That's the powerful backing of American Express. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/withAmex. Card member entrance access not limited to Amex Platinum Card.
Cool shoes. My brother would love those.
Ooh, I don't share my sources.
Well, I just found them using Circle to Search with Google on my new Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 6.
What?
And I texted them to my brother on the other side of this massive screen.
Where did you get that phone?
Lucky for you, I don't gatekeep my sources. Tell them.
Get your own Galaxy Z Fold 6 now at Samsung.com. Requires internet connection. Results may vary by uniqueness, clarity, and framing of circled image and related factors.
This episode is brought to you by Jira. Ever wonder how those big marketing campaigns that make headlines get delivered on time? It all starts with Jira, the only project management tool you need to plan and track work across any team. Every step of that campaign is organised in one place, from launching the campaign all the way back to designing ads and writing creative briefs. Get started on your next big marketing campaign idea today in Jira.
This podcast is supported by Progressive, a leader in RV insurance. RVs are for sharing adventures with family, friends, and even your pets. So if you bring your cats and dogs along for the ride, you'll want Progressive RV insurance. They protect your cats and dogs like family by offering up to $1,000 in optional coverage for vet bills in case of an RV accident, making it a great companion for the responsible pet owner who loves to travel. See Progressive's other benefits and more when you quote RV insurance at Progressive.com today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Pet injury is an additional coverage and subject to policy terms.
eBay Motors is here for the ride. With over 122 million parts, you can make sure your number one ride or die stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply.
And it's happening up front too. You see that with Braden Fisk, you see it with Jared Verse, you're seeing it with a lot of the young players. So once they get to the point where they have confidence and they trust their eyes and they're recognizing what's going on, right? So you're going to see the defense take sort of a leap there. The Roseboom had a tough game, but he's not in there primarily to be your run stopper. So when they start running the ball, here's what happens, the domino effect, right? So now your D-line gets exposed. Now your linebackers get exposed, right? And now your secondary, remember, one of the reasons the Rams play that 11 compressed formation is that they want to make these secondary players become the primary tacklers, right? Because when a 175-pound corner has to tackle a running back, hey, I'll put the odds on the running back any day. But now this is what starts to happen. That's the whole thing about defense, right? If you don't have this type of synced up unit, as one falls, so do the other dominoes. And that's what you saw happen against the Cardinals. Remember, Kyler Murray did not throw for more than 300 yards. They threw 41 points. Kyler Murray had 266 yards. So it's not like, we were watching Dan Fouts out there. Not to take anything away from the Cardinals, they played a great game. But it's, the Rams have to understand, they're giving up chunks of yardage. Not only are they getting gashed on the ground, they are giving up big play after big play after big play. And so we saw what happened with Williams with Detroit, and then you saw it now with Harrison. So there's something that's not attributed to injuries. That has to do with conceptually the defense not understanding what their role is and what their responsibilities are.
Yeah. And to your credit with him not going over 300, well, perfect passer rating, unfortunately. And I think the last quarterback to have something like that was our old friend Kurt Warner, I think, for the Cardinals. And so
greatest show.
And somebody else. I mean, there was a stat I think they had during the broadcast. But man, oh man, we got to get things figured out fast with that. But again, no one played well other than maybe Kobe Turner. Jared Verse, maybe the one guy, maybe our punter, right? But that's about it. And
Bo Limmer, did he have another good game?
Well. You know what? He was okay.
Relatively speaking,
he was okay, I guess. He wasn't dreadful, but he wasn't. I wouldn't say he was good. Okay. And Rob Havenstein looked like he just hasn't practiced in forever. Dotson was disappointing, but we know he's battling through an ankle. Jonah injured again. It was just the trenches lost us the game. It's as simple as that. And unfortunate.
Hey, well, before we move on to our next topic, Ian, you had a chat with our friend over there, Jake. Tell us a little bit about that conversation.
Yeah, me and Jake had talked a little bit when he was broadcasting, and he had brought me in. He wanted to chat, and we just talked ball. And shout out to him for shouting out our podcast, the Rams Up Podcast. And he didn't have to do that. I know there's a lot of competitive fan bases where I know there's other fan bases where their media people and their podcast people have beefs. It's kind of crazy, by the way. And luckily, our community, our Rams media, our Ramily, it doesn't feel that way at all. We all get along pretty nice. We all communicate. We all talk regularly, no matter how close or how not close you are. We all just like to talk Rams football. So that was cool of Jake to shout us out, and
Now,
we'll shout him out as well. Hey.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that. And now, which podcast is it? Because I know he's had several.
Yeah, it's his main Jake Ellenbogen show that he does all the time. Cranking out videos and doing stuff. So
is it the Downtown Rams or?
It wasn't that Downtown Rams where he teams up with Alexis. It was his own Jake Ellenbogen show that he does all the time. But I know Downtown Rams is part of his universe.
Yeah, that was nice to hear. So we thank him for that.
Cool. So yeah, if Rams Nation, if you haven't heard of Jake, which I'm sure many of you already have, hey, click on his videos. He's up to date. He's very informative, knows ball, and shout out to him. So go check out his show.
And we'll try to move him forward. We'll try to take a moment every roundtable to, maybe I'll check in on one of the other podcasters, Rams Brothers, the East Coast Rams podcast, and, give them a shout out as well. I just did.
There you go.
Beast Coast, baby. Beast Coast.
Yeah.
All friends of the pod here for sure.
Okay. Moving on to, oh man, this is just going to be a regular segment here, I guess. Hopefully not for too much longer though. I'll just, I know we have new additions, and new additions to IR are John Johnson, 4 to 6 weeks. Cooper Kupp, obviously, at least 4 weeks. Jonah Jackson, I don't know the timetable on that. And we already had Puka Nacua, Trey Tomlinson, Steve Avila, Darion Kendrick, Colin McDermott, Joseph Noteboom, Darius Williams, Tyler Higbee, John Johnson. Did I mention him as a new addition? Yeah. And then 2 guys that potentially are eligible to come back. I'm not sure how impactful they'll be. KT Leviston and Laurel Murchison. And I think I'm going to do something later this week. I'm going to field a Rams IR roster and see how it stacks up against our healthy roster. We don't have any quarterbacks or running backs on IR yet, but man.
King Kupp, man. I mean, that's obviously number one because the defense. I mean, John Johnson, what a big blow. He was our up top safety, free safety when we go nickel, when we go dime, and I saw him at the dime linebacker spot as well, where him and Cam Kitchens have kind of flipped around, where the dime linebacker playing like a linebacker close to Troy Reader in that area. So that's a big loss, but none bigger than Cooper Kupp, man. And what a damn shame. It's just the dreaded 30-year-old skill player number that everyone says, oh, you're over 30, we shouldn't pay you or keep you around. And Kupp has supported all the people who would argue that is the case. And it's just so dang unfortunate. I mean, what a great game he had week 1. But we talked about it last roundtable, right, gentlemen, that workload was unsustainable. And not saying he caught 14, 15 passes like he did last week, but the strain of him having to be the focal point of a lot of pass plays, for him to be the focal point of being a lead blocker on 70%, 75% of all the run plays, it is just a lot to ask for someone over 30 who's had an awful injury history. And I set, the X Twitter universe on fire the other day after he got hurt, and we didn't know what his status was. And I'm not trying to just, call myself out here or anything like that. But I had mentioned, I was like, look, if his ankle injury is super significant, this is before we knew it, and I was like, the Rams will for sure move on from him in 2025. Because, guys, it's 5 out of his 8 professional seasons he's had some type of major injury where he's missed action. 2018, he tears his ACL when we go, halfway through the 2018 season before we get to the Super Bowl. 2019 is cool, and 2017's rookie year was cool. 2020, he has a bursitis PCL injury that holds him out the rest of the postseason, and he wasn't going to be able to play if we did beat the Packers in the 2020 season. He wasn't going to be able to play everybody. 2021's Triple Crown, sets records, win a championship, Super MVP, Fan-freaking-tastic. Magical season. 2022, he has a high ankle sprain where it was so bad they had to do the tightrope surgery, which is basically screwing in the bone to make sure the ligaments will heal correctly. That's how bad that was. 2023, hamstring injury all through training camp, goes on IR, comes back, has a couple good weeks, bangs his elbow, gets more banged up, and he was never healthy the rest of the season, and it was obvious. Then we get to this season. Everyone's talking about revenge Cooper Cup tour. Everyone's talking about, man, look how great he is. Reporters, coaches, players, and that's great. Then we get here to week 2, another high ankle sprain. Not to the same one he had the surgery on, but then now his right ankle. And now he's going to be out for, I'd say, 6 weeks minimum based on how high ankles are. I mean, Joe Noteboom had to get carted off the field last week for a high ankle. Cup's just a warrior, and he's able to fight through a lot of stuff, but that's not good at all. So, guys, 5 out of 8 season, things have been going down. His cap hit is significant this season and also next season. So I just think it's just
what's the dead cap hit if you move on from him?
It just sucks, man, that this is a conversation. I know I'm starting it, but this is the reality. The Rams do not care what your status with the team is. If things are not working out, they will move on for you, whether it's financially, whether it's play on the field, whether they've been winning without you, right? I mean, let's go down the list real quick, everybody. Robert Woods, hey, we won a Super Bowl without you, even though you're really important for the culture and you were a good receiver while you were healthy. See ya. Hey, Jalen, you're an all-pro level player, but the money's not working out. See ya. Hey, Leonard Floyd, you're a borderline Pro Bowl level player. Thanks for playing. The money ain't working out. See ya. Bobby Wagner, thanks for being a Pro Bowl, all-pro level player with us, but the money ain't working out. See ya. Hey, Brandon Cooks, we just paid you, and we're sorry for all the concussions you've had, but it's not working out. See ya. I mean, we can go down the list, and I just named a bunch. I know a handful of that were in the same season. I mean, Jared Goff, geez Louise. See ya. We just paid you, and we can keep going on and on and on, right? And I'm sure everyone has a player in mind that you can think of. Ernest Jones, see ya. Kenny Young, see ya. I mean, we can, again, I'll stop. But it's that reality, though, gentlemen, and I think depending on how bad it is and how much time he misses, this will be something that is going to be heavily on the front office's mind. And unless Sean McVay pounds the table and says, no, we are not moving off him, or unless Cooper Kupp takes like a massive pay cut somehow, that's something that's likely to happen. And again, I'm not wishing it. Kupp's a Rams legend forever and ever and ever. I'll always wear that number 10 and the old school 18 jersey. But geez Louise, it just, out of all the players that we were hoping could hang on, he was one of them that you could not lose. And here we are. So sorry for the long soliloquy, but sucks.
That's the other real advantage of running the ball. You can protect players, right? And the beginning of the season, the theme, I know, in our podcast was load management, right? That the commitment to load management. And that was sort of what was sort of being alluded to all preseason. And I'm just going to speak for myself. Please correct me if I'm wrong. You know, the whole idea of drafting Blake Corum, everything was within that sort of theme, right? The depth at wide receiver, which honestly is going to be the Rams' saving grace. If the Rams can get even a couple of wins by the time the bye rolls around, it's going to be because of their depth at wide receiver, that this offense is probably still going to have some functioning level. So that's one. So I think, this is when you go down that list of players that have just been, just like everything has just been sapped from their abilities because they've just been worn down. And Puka went through one season and then he started really, you saw that, you started to see that. We were like, all right, we got to be careful with Puka as well. And that's one thing that I don't really understand, is that this just non-commitment to load management, especially when you have as many wide receivers as the Rams have. Look, you're absolutely right. Listen, it's tempting when you have a great player like King Kupp, 10K. I mean, the dude is money, right? But at the same time, you have to understand the human element to football is that if you want these players to survive, right? Think about it. You have to find a way. Football is a game of attrition. There's no way around it. Injuries are going to happen, and how you manage those injuries pretty much define your season, right? Look around the league, right? Shout out to my boy Pacheco. Hopefully he's back soon. Out there at KC, probably one of the toughest running backs out there, right? Joe Mixon, hip drop tackle wasn't called, right? He's lucky. They're saying that it's only going to be 6 weeks for him. These things, they happen even with the rules that are put in place to protect the players. These things, it's a contact sport. Load management is probably one of the more critical aspects of managing a football team. And that's something the Rams have not done well for several seasons. And it's really cost them seasons. And then the other aspect too, and I'll close on this, is that, listen, and I said it before, it is very, very hard to go for 2 years where you're like not even the mindset of winning, where you're used to throwing in the towel, like not even by midseason, and then you want to come out and talk about winning at all. You got to build up to that. And I think there was just too much of like, let's go when there wasn't that slow build up that I think should have happened. And I think caught a lot of people by surprise. But, remember, the Rams are coming off 2 seasons. 22, they sort of gave up on it. 23, they sort of gave up on it until they were like, oh, wait a minute, we got a football team here. They try to reverse field. But so I think now this mind shift that we're going to have to see going into the bye week, which is definitely viable, Ram Nation. In my opinion, and to my boys in the room, my brothers in the room, listen, I definitely think it's viable. If you look at what the Rams have, listen, they're going to have to win ugly, but this game plan of pretending like we don't have injuries and we're just going to stick to our format, to me, is nonsensical. It's going to get progressively worse.
We're 45 minutes in, and we haven't talked about this 49er game yet, but I will close on one note. I checked Spot Track while we were talking here, and it's still a $22 million cap hit on Kupp if we move on from him. Now, I don't know if it's the same, whether it's, they can always work out a deal, with Cooper. And I don't know if it's the same for a trade. I don't know how a trade would work, but I'd hate to see that happen. I'd still hate to see that happen. But now the 49ers are coming to town, and, my initial thought is, man, what a bad time to be playing the 49ers. But then again, maybe not. No CMC, no Deebo Samuel, Brock Purdy without probably his top two or three weapons, although Jordan Mason's running the ball really well. Still the same 49er defense. Ian, how do you any initial thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah. What a bad home opener this is. I mean, what a tough, hey man, you had a tough loss week 1, you had a tough loss in a different capacity in week 2. You are opening up against a team who is coming off also a tough loss, where the film and the score was not the same of how bad that loss really was for the 49ers, truthfully. Like they got smacked around, and the score should have been drastically bigger of their loss. So for them to be like, hey, we got to win because we can't fall to 1-2. 49er fans are all over LA, and they like to come down here and watch their team at SoFi Stadium. It's that's a tough home opener. And luckily, no McCaffrey, he's on IR. Luckily, Deebo Samuel has a calf strain, and Shanahan said he'll be out for a couple weeks at least. So 2 guys who have smoked us the last couple years, and Deebo for a while now, they won't be around. That helps our defense significantly. But what are the keys to the game on offense, gentlemen? I'll be short and sweet. You have to Coach McVay and the offensive staff morph into a run-first, play-action pass offense. You cannot be this drop back, let Matthew Stafford save the day in a drop back game. We showed the stat earlier. Our O-line is just awful right now at pass blocking. And how do you protect the linemen? Attack with run blocking instead of react with pass blocking. And I think if they do that, if you make the 49ers defense have to bunch up and commit to stopping the run, even if we are getting a couple yards and 3 yards and so forth. I mean, hopefully we do pop some big runs, of course, But if we're getting them to commit close to the line of scrimmage and say, okay, hey, they're going to try to run it, we got to stop that, right? Once we get them to sucker up, then that's when you get a Demarcus Robinson 101 to make a big jump ball catch. That's where you can get a Winnington to maybe catch a slant one-on-one and outrun a corner. That's where you can get Tyler Johnson to work his magic running routes one-on-one with a corner, or so forth and so forth. Colby Parkinson maybe one-on-one with a safety or tight end and throw it up high so he can use his height and jump over somebody. That's how it's going to work, because if it's just straight up 5-step drop, 7-step drop, okay, hey, let Matthew Stafford survey the field. He's not going to have time to survey the field.
Yeah, I think I see.
Bite and then react. That's the only way we're going to have things opened up in the passing game, on offense at least, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd like to see the Rams do I see so many teams do it against us, where the tight end sells the block, bleeds out, easy 8-yard catch.
Yeah,
there all day.
And you know what, too, real quick? I don't mean to cut into anybody's time on this. Where are the screens? Where are the unique running back screens? Where are the unique tight end screens? That also helps out second and third string O linemen who aren't experienced and maybe aren't the best blocking overall. Get them out in space, let them get in front of people and just cut people off. Maybe not bulldoze somebody, but that's going to help our team significantly. We got to figure out more creative ways to run the ball and screens, because drop back passing against our old friend Leonard Floyd, Bosa, Hargrave, Warner on a blitz occasionally, and whoever else, forget about it offensively.
Yeah, and we did have a really nice screen set up to Kyron Williams, and I forget what happened. Is either tipped or he had 3 blockers out there in front of him, and you could see his frustration that the ball didn't get to him. How are you feeling about this matchup, Paul?
Well, I think the first things first, the Rams have to keep it close. You can't let this game get away from them like they did with Arizona. Arizona, they let that game get away from them. So that's number one. You got to keep this game close. And number two, this is a team that's going to look. Everybody knows it now. Run the ball, kick them in the teeth, and let's see what happens. Right? They didn't respond against Arizona. They didn't respond in the latter part against the Detroit game. Listen. There's nowhere to hide in the NFL. Everything's going to get exposed. Everything's going to come out on game day. So now every team is going to start out that way unless you can. And let me put it to you this way, Ram Nation. Let me ask you this question. How many minutes into that Arizona game before Aaron Donald, out of frustration, would have ripped off somebody's face mask? Let's take a quick poll, all right? That's
possibly one of his teammates.
Right. Especially when your team is up 34, whatever the score was, and they ran that option play with Kyler Murray. Yeah. Or Aaron Donald would have ripped somebody's face mask off. And the Rams are sitting around, hips on, hands on their hips, dejected. I mean, are you guys kidding? That late in the game, they had Matthew Stafford in the game. Like, what are you doing? Well, you have Matthew Stafford in the game. You're just asking for the other team to take a shot at him. And that's the other thing too. There have been too many times that Matthew Stafford has been hit, and the entire Ram team has just been standing there and watching. So the attitude of this team right now is not a winning attitude. It really is not. You can't talk about being, you want to be at the top of your division. You can't allow things like that happen. If they cough wrong around Matthew Stafford, right, you have to send a message to the other team. So the personality of this team really has to sort of start to take shape now. And this game is really going to be a personality game. You're going to have to play the type of physical football. Look, the 49ers, they will go into their fourth string running back, and they have no problem calling running plays where we have difficulty, where we're hesitant to call running plays with our first string running back. So they're going to make this a lunch pail game. The Rams have to show up for that. And then lastly, the Rams have to take their shots when they have the opportunities, right? I think a lot of teams are forcing the Rams to just, live horizontally. They're happy with that. The Rams have to take their shots when they got to find opportunities, and they have to take it downfield. And I like this trio. I like this trio of Tyler Johnson, Jay Witt, Demarcus Robinson. You could throw in Tutu there. And Parkinson was killing them in week 1. I don't know where is this play design? That guy, get him the ball. And I said it before, right? If the Rams ever develop a screen game, they would just kill people. right?
Yeah.
Because people are coming off the blocks. It's like a track meet every time they play the Rams. They don't check run first. They don't even check screen. Those pass rushers are coming full tilt. You get a screen game going, it's going to be 10, 15 yards before anybody even comes near that back or that tight end. So there are a couple of things the Rams have to do. Keep it close. Count on your veteran quarterback, to take you down the field. And then on defense, 2 or 3 players have to really emerge as a steadying influence. The conductor has to be consistent. It has to play 4 quarters of football. Troy Reader, they said Troy Reader was there and capable. Well, then that has to happen. And in the secondary, the corner, T. White, he hasn't played in a while, but I'm still in the T. White. I'm still all in on T. White, so I'm hoping he has a big game. But the Rams really have to win this game inside out. Defense first. What's surprising? Special teams has been surprisingly steady, so that's a good thing.
I know what a universe we're living in.
Unspectacular, but steady.
Yeah, real quick defensively, I mean, they just have to just commit to stopping the run and then make Brock Purdy throw them into victory. I mean, if that's the case, then we just have to live with it. But if Mason and Juszczyk keep just bulldozing us, then we have no shot against a Shanahan led offense. Because what do? You do your best to stop the run, and if you can do that, then you make them one-dimensional. But on top of that is, just like what Brian Flores did this last week when I was watching some film, and even McCourty was talking about it, recapping the game. He had said, if you can change it up smartly, of course, don't just do random whatever, but on this third down, maybe you send a blitz. On the next third down, maybe you drop everybody in the coverage. It's just your tendencies have to be broken when playing a high-level offensive coordinator or play caller like a Shanahan, and you're playing a good quarterback. And that's why a Brian Flores defense has always had good success against us, against Shanahan, and against a lot of top, play callers in this league. So I think that's going to be the key. And also, we have a little history on our side. Luckily, Brock Purdy without Deebo Samuel hasn't won a game. And again, there hasn't been a large sample size of him without Deebo. But, hey, 0-3, 3 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. And, hey, that's going to benefit us drastically. And thank God,
Yeah, that's one question I've always asked about Brock Purdy. I'm not trying to besmirch him. He's a very good quarterback, but I've always wondered how he would do in an offense that is void of all the talent he's been surrounded with. And maybe we're about to find out.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to find out. And it's, again, I think the pressure we got on Kyler Murray was good enough to keep the game competitive, at least defensively, but we just could not get home enough. And I also think that it's time for Jared Verse and all those boys to get home. And I think they could do it. I really do. Because, the Vikings front seven, I mean, they have some good players, Van Ginkel and others. They were getting home. Why can't our guys? And I think when you have a Jared Verse who leads all rookies by a wide margin of pressure rate, and even Braden Fisk is doing pretty good with pressure rate right now. It may not be, oh my God, but he's doing enough to get pressure. I think those guys, we need them to get to Purdy when we make them throw the ball, right? I mean, as you can see here, shout out to Wyatt Miller, who's working with the Rams right now. The 2 Florida State guys, I mean, look at that. Jared Verse in the top right corner, just killing it through 2 weeks. And then Braden Fisk for being a D tackle. He's up there high on the grid as well. So I think, hey, those 2 guys, it's time, rookies. It's time for you to make an impact and get to the quarterback and get some good quarterback hits and sacks. Of course, obviously, Turner and Young, we expect that as well. But time for those young bucks who are going to get more one-on-one opportunities than, Turner and Byron Young. So
now, how has Fisk been doing against the run, in your opinion?
It hasn't been great, but I think Detroit was a solid performance. This last week, again, the whole front seven was very frustrating. He should have had a couple sacks on Kyler Murray, Braden Fisk. Sincerely, he really should have. So I know Purdy's very mobile. He's not 4.4 speed like Kyler Murray. So I think they will work on how do you contain an athletic quarterback? That'll be the point of emphasis because Brock Purdy will damage us if we let him get a crease in the pocket to be able to bail. And I think they can tackle, Purdy way better than they can try to get little Kyler Murray running a 4-4. So Braden Fisk, I mean, hey, last week, again, nobody played really good on the front seven other than maybe Verse, if you can argue that. But I am encouraged overall from week one. And, I expect good things from the two rookies. And
you guys are helping me starting to form my fearsome 4 keys to the game, keys to a win. I guess we could start with diversified run game.
Have to play action pass. Have to
put Brock Purdy on the ground 3+ times. 5 would be nice.
Well,
hey. Maybe Brock Purdy throws an interception or 2.
And then hey,
like,
it's gonna be a challenge. It's gonna be a challenge.
Yeah, point spread 7.5. That's about where I thought it'd be.
Sure.
I think that's the biggest spread in the league for this weekend, man. There are some good football games. Unfortunately, a couple of them are the same time as the Rams game. And unfortunately, man, the Seahawks, they're 2-0, and now they get the Dolphins without Tua.
Yeah.
And they're favored. There's something about the Seahawks have a leprechaun or some kind of genie in their corner.
Well, they just
luck.
Their defense isn't abysmal like it's been under Pete Carroll. I mean, maybe, it just hasn't been bad. They have a coordinator who's coordinated a lot of good defenses. So I knew they'd be an improved team. So it's not shocking that they're undefeated right now. But they played a rookie quarterback. They played Jacoby Brissett to deal with their offense personnel. So I mean, hey, they're just more talented than those two teams. So they should be winning those two.
Right?
Hey.
Yeah. And then they get a 2 less Dolphins, which the Dolphins could still win that game.
Possible,
but yeah.
And the Rams, however the coaching staff decides to attack this, is that really now, I think one of the biggest mistakes after the Detroit game, I think there was way too much discussion like, oh, these moral victories. Oh, well, we did this, we were able to do that. And it was just a bad feeling going into the Arizona game when you're talking like that. You can't have and these are grown-ups. This is the NFL level. We're talking about pressure rates and things like that, right? But like Ian's pointing out, and the bottom line is you got to finish. You got to finish. Coming close is not going to get it done in the NFL. You got to finish. You got to finish games. They didn't finish in Detroit. Now, if AD was there, AD was the finisher on defense, right? AD finishes, right? That's the whole idea, right? So right now they have to find out who is going to be that guy when they need a clutch stop, when they need a big play, a momentum shift, who's going to be that play. And another reason why I'm bringing that up is so Quentin Lake has been on 21 stops in 2 games. We're talking about domino effect, right? People understanding this war of attrition. So he's been having to take on a huge burden because of the way the defense has been playing. Keep an eye on that, Ram Nation. So hopefully this kid, he's a great player, but already 21 stops in 2 games, and now you're coming against a physical team. Keep an eye on that. These are the players that you have to sort of highlight because they're the ones that are going to be in the middle of the action. And when you're talking about teams and injuries, this is what leads to injuries. So they have to have a cohesive game plan and understand that this is going to be a 60-minute, this is going to be a war. And listen, and I am all for this. I do not care who was penciled into the starting lineup in week 1. You've had 2 weeks to assess. Stop rolling guys out there that cannot get it done. There are players, it's one thing if you're not getting it done because, for whatever reason, you're not executing up to your ability. There's another thing when you're not getting it done because you're standing around watching other guys get creamed. And there are some guys out there right now that are just not, they're walking around, they're not putting out max effort. You got to pull those guys, right? And it's okay. Start bringing in. We know Xavier Woods is going to find his way on this roster now, right? Because this wide receiver, we've been saying it since week 1. I think it's time. I think we got to bring in Omar Speights. Might need to get a shot. The Big O might need to get a shot. Hey, listen, if Corey Durden's going to lay his body out there, throw him out there. Throw him out there. If he's willing to lay it out there, if he's willing to sacrifice, the message has to be this season is not over. We make it to the bye. We reassess. right? You got guys coming back, right? Right now, nothing other than, or correct me if I'm wrong, Kendrick has been season-ending thus far, although we have seen some injuries that might be a lot longer than 4 weeks, right? I think that's being very, very optimistic. But at least get to the bye week, reassess, try to get a couple of wins, and then put a block together like they did last year. Get everybody right, and then go with what you got. You still got a trade possibility in the mix somewhere, right? The Rams always have that ability to do that. So whatever position of need is glaring at that point, they can definitely resolve it that way and not have to play shorthanded. So there are a lot of positives here. A lot of really good players on this roster that can do damage. The Rams you got to give the ball to Iron Kyren. This has to be his game. Got to give the ball to Blake the Great and Ronnie Rivers. You just got to win this game on the ground. You got to play dirty. You got to play not dirty meaning trying to injure people, but you got to get dirty. There should be no clean uniforms at the end of this game. Let's play some football, man. Regardless of who we play, doesn't matter. I think I speak for all football fans. These injuries are just ruin the game for us, because you want to see two teams go at it, fully loaded, ready to roll, best players locking horns. I will always be player first, man. What they go through and the sacrifice, it's a shame to see these guys, all these injuries out there, and shout out to all the players. Hopefully everybody comes back well and can finish out the season, not just on the Rams, but on every team out there.
So you want to share your prediction, Paul?
I'm gonna quote Clubber Lang from what was it, Rocky 3? Pain. That's my prediction.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a hard-fought game.
Yeah. Oh, fair enough. Yeah, it's hard to pick the Rams in this one. How about you, Ian?
Yeah, until Sean McVay is willing to morph into something similar that we've all discussed, right? Play action pass, run first, save the backup lineman from one-on-one, getting smoked. I can't pick them to win a game until I see it. I'm just sorry. Right, we're just down too many men. Coach McVay is very stubborn with the play calling and play design right now through 2 weeks and through a large sample size of his coaching career as a Rams head coach. So I'm picking him to lose. What is the score? I'll throw a score for you. I mean, it'll probably end up being I'll say 27-13 if McVay continues to have a same 11 personnel only game plan like he has the last couple of weeks. Now, if he does morph into something similar to what we've discussed, then I think it's a coin flip. But right now, I can't pick them till I see it from Coach McVay on the offensive side of the football. I just can't do it.
Yeah, it is true. 60 minutes of football. That's all that matters right now. Rams have to get back to playing 60 minutes of football, Ram Nation. No peaks and valleys, 60 minutes of football. Whatever the scoreboard says after that, okay, that's fine. But that's a start. You build on that. So far, they have not done that. 60 minutes of quality football. Get your best players out there. Balanced game plan on offense and on defense. No brain cramps. Be where you're supposed to be. Tackle who you're supposed to tackle. These missed tackles are just killing them. But I think the boys have enough in them to make it competitive.
Yeah, well, I'm here to lift everybody up. That's my role here. And, however, if you saw my predictions, I needed some filler in my my pregame video I did before the Cardinals Rams game, and I decided I'd throw out a bunch of predictions, and it did not go well. And I think I'm tempted to go back and delete that entire drop, but I'm going 19-17 Rams. Joshua Cardi, player of the game, a bunch of field goals. What I gotta give us some hope here. How strongly do
Flipper Anderson comes out of retirement, right? Runs that streak down the sideline, right?
We get Nolan at safety. All of a sudden, time machine.
Hey,
we get
is Eric Weddle still available? Is Eric Weddle still available?
Yeah.
Hey, so two things I wanted to talk about before we sign off here. I should have done this first. Is our offensive line? Share with me what you know. I believe it'll be Lyric Jackson, I don't know who's left guard. Center will be Bo Limmer, and then Dotson and Havenstein. Any clue on who our left guard might be?
Logan Bruss. I think Sean
It'll be
McVay had
Logan
mentioned.
Bruss.
I think Sean
Oh,
McVay had
okay.
mentioned
him
that
twice.
Yeah.
When are they going to roll
Okay.
with him though? He said it last week, and he went with someone else. So you will see. I think also it's like whoever has the best week in practice too. I think that.
Yeah. Well, it's good to see, Logan Bruss, Jordan Whittington, see what that's the one, I wouldn't say bright side of all these injuries, but
right. We're gonna get a lot of 3rd round picks out there starting to help us out. Logan Bruss, Cameron Kitchens is gonna be a safety you see in nickel and dime packages going forward when Quinn Lake is not in a traditional spot. Blake Corum, we got to see more carries from him. I was, I've been pretty upset, and I vocalized that on a reaction, Mark, how irritated I was about that, him not getting any touches. So we're going to need those guys to show up, and obviously a Whittington and a Verse and a Fisk that we talk about. But it's time for the young guys to get out there and help us win some ball games, because what else can we do?
Yeah,
and Mark, your boy, it's time for your boy to show up. 2-2.
Yeah, maybe he will
show up.
Yeah, he has. If he gets thrown to ever.
Yeah, twice a year he has a really big play, and maybe it'll be Sunday. This is his opportunity. And I don't mean that. I'm not trying to be mean, but it is true that he does once in a while. He'll just come through with a giant play. My second thing was, and you touched on it briefly there, Ian. Your thoughts are now. Do we know if Kobe Durant's going to be available?
I have no idea. I know he didn't finish the game with a toe. I mean, it seems like, McVay did not mention, or it doesn't feel like it. McVay did not mention him as somebody who was like, oh, he's going to be out for a while or anything. So it might have just been like, this game is lost. Just save the foot at this point, right?
Yeah.
And it feels like that was the flow. But, Akello's back on the practice squad. It wouldn't be a shock to see him get game action. And I know people like to bang on Tre'Davious White, and I get it. The Jameson Williams touchdown in week 1 wasn't pretty. No fight on that for me on that. I know the back shoulder throw from Kyler to Marvin earlier in that game wasn't great, and I thought the coverage he had on that first touchdown he led up to Marvin in the back, that was pretty good coverage. That was just an awesome throw and catch.
Awesome
it's hard
catch,
to guard that. And then the last one where he was there pouting like, oh, I can't believe I got. Guys, on that play, and please check out the film breakdown I put out. We illustrate that play for you there and what happened. I don't care if you have prime Jalen Ramsey out there. You're asking a DB to run with the pass catcher for 8-9 seconds and hold up. It's impossible. So I know everyone's like, oh, he gave up another touchdown. How about Braden Fisk and Jared Verse sack him when they had 4 opportunities to do it on that play? So I'm not going to bang Tre'Davious White like he's just some crappy player, because there was a lot of good football he played in week 1 against St. Brown. He held him down. All right.
Yeah.
And
he shut down the sun god.
And there was a lot of bad moments from everybody on Sunday. So that last touchdown he gave up, that was not on him. I'd just like to see any good corner run with a receiver for 9 seconds and lock him down. I just think it's impossible. So we'll see what happens with the secondary, but we obviously know Cam Kitchens is going to be, getting good playing time now going forward.
So you think the default secondary will be Trey White and Kobe Durant, and then Quinton at safety, and then moving up to and then Kitchens will come in. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I didn't mean to cut you off. So what it was in this last game, Quinton Lake was a traditional safety when we were in our base 3-4 defense, right? 3 D linemen, 2 outside linebackers, 2 inside linebackers, and 2 traditional safeties. He was one of the traditional safeties. When we go nickel or dime, where we add DBs in, he would jump to the slot star or big nickel, whatever you want to call it. Then John Johnson would go play up top. And then a few times when we went dime, John Johnson went to the dime linebacker. Kitchens went back up top, and Quinton Lake still stayed in the slot star. So I think that'll be the flow. I don't know if we'll run much dime package anymore, because it's like, who would you put there in that dime linebacker spot? But I mean, nickel will have to do for the moment until maybe somebody steps up, or maybe Okello. Maybe he's good enough to play and roam around there at the dime. I mean, who knows? They're going to have to figure stuff out with John Johnson.
Yeah, and I think Josh Wallace and Jason McCullough got some defensive snaps, right? I mean, it was somewhat garbage time, but
that might be. McCullough was always a big fan. McVay was a big fan of McCullough. If you watch McCullough's play during the preseason, McCullough It seems like a good fit. And we have some roster moves that are going to happen. Wednesday is going to be very telling for the Rams. Everything's about Wednesday. They do everything right after Wednesday, right? So if somebody's not playing on Wednesday, they're not playing, period. We might see Russ Yeast brought back. You never know, right? Yeah. For Ram Nation, as you know, Russ Yeast, just to talk about the ascension of Cam Kinchins and how much confidence they have in McCullough, is that Russ Yeast, was cut loose. So depending on the health of Kobe Durant and some other factors, we might see a return of Russ Yeast. All right. So, but we definitely are going to see some other related roster moves, not just for the secondary, but other parts of this team. I definitely think we have a mini shakeup that's going to happen to get the cobwebs sort of cleared out and get this team right.
Yeah. And if
doesn't have to be too many players, but I think you need 2 or 3 players need to get awakened.
Yeah, I mean they have Leviston and Murchison potentially coming back. Do the Rams move forward with 3 quarterbacks? Is there going to be movement there? And hey, maybe Cam Lampkin can get out there with Cam Kinchins and Cameron Curl, Cam Kinchins, and Cam Lampkin in our secondary, just to confuse the offense a little bit more.
Hey, listen, if I'm Shula and if I'm McVay, I know they were roommates. If I'm McVay, I'm closing that door. I'm saying we're playing more vets, right? Anybody who's got some playing experience is getting out there, because we're giving up chunks out there. So I mean, if you want to err on the side of caution, you always go with the vets. So that might be something we start to see. Although the Rams do have a ton of really talented young players out there.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be there's going to be some stuff happening for sure, and we'll keep you updated over the rest of this week on the pod. I'll drop a video here and there, and check out Ian's film studies, Orchestrated Rams. It's good stuff, and you want to learn a little bit, be entertained, and be educated at the same time. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. We have the conductor on the field, and we have the maestro in house. Mandalorian maestro.
There's the violin tatted on me right there.
Oh, wow.
Hey.
And you play the violin, right? Yeah.
That's right, baby.
Yeah. Hey, maybe if things go really south for the Rams, we'll have to have you come on and play a little violin.
I'll be like SpongeBob, Mr. Krabs. I'll have my little tiny one. Tiny one with thumb and index finger.
Maybe we should have you, play a violin tune that matches the Rams' most recent performance, something like that.
Gosh, we hit that point, then all is lost. It feels like, ain't it?
Well, you see our subscriptions take a dive.
It's like the band on the Titanic; they just kept playing and kept playing.
Keep playing, boys, no matter
what.
Oh
man, it's nice to have multi-talented people joining me here. Okay, guys, it's been fun. Good episode, I think, and we'll just hope for the best, and we'll be 1-2 the next time we do this roundtable.
Hope so.
Just like the Ramley dogs never quit. Come on, baby.
Yeah.
Go.
Okay.
Long season.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot. It's been fun. We'll talk soon. Out here from Rams Up.
Run the ball, please, Coach.
That's going to do it for this episode. Remember, you can reach us at ramsuppodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget about our YouTube channel. Our handle is at laramsup.com. Till next time, keep the horns up, stay safe, and have fun out there.